evil as frick. Shit. They're evil.
They are evil as all heck.
Zach, why might a planetar come after your party?
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Survival Check, your unofficial A to Z guide to the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition monster manual. My name is Zach, and I will be your celestial guide on our righteous journey through the plains of the multiverse. And along for the crusade with me, like always, is my fellow Azamon, Tevis, Shayne, and Anderson. You dudes ready to spread the good word tonight?
I'm ready to spread a word.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that I ascended from cultist to Azamon.
I mean,
yeah, we had a busy 2 weeks.
Yeah,
that was good.
I mean, all that Aboleth worship was going to get us somewhere, right?
I'm glad.
Yeah, so welcome everyone. Tonight is our first super special. We are going to be doing angels tonight. We're going to do a couple of these, probably angels, demons, devils, dragons, you know. If not, that will take us forever. But
within the next 10 episodes.
Yeah, that's just going to that itself would be its own podcast. But anyway, we're doing angels, so that's going to be your diva, your planetar, and your solar. So, like always, let's start with our prior knowledge. Have any of you run these, played in Azamar, because technically they are half angels, celestials, played against them, used them, anything?
Yes,
No.
yes, and yes.
Yeah.
I've used angels a lot. I have played many in Azamar. And there was at one point in, I believe I was level 19 in our Eberron campaign, where I had like a mini army of divas and planetars on our final siege against one of the big bad guys.
Right.
It was pretty sick.
Yeah, it will. Yeah, exactly. So after playing them and stuff, what do you know about them, or what does anyone know about them?
Well, first thing, anything's possible through God, so write that down. No, honestly though, after playing with them for so long and having been with them in many of my campaigns, I really don't know a whole lot about them.
That's fair. They have a very complicated past that we'll be getting into, especially in 5th edition. They're more basic, but they definitely have a complicated past. Shayne, were you going to say something?
I've never played as one, but I have been sort of forced to put them into my campaign. I didn't write them in, but you know, everybody seems to be real interested in the Celestials, so
I mean, who isn't? When everything goes bad, you got to go seeking out the gods.
Vinwar and Jomei both worship celestial beings.
Yeah.
And now you guys are actively seeking them out. So,
Right.
Yep.
It's been an interesting 6 weeks.
It gets real, you know?
Yeah. I haven't done enough research. But it's been fun. They're
Hopefully we'll film that research tonight.
yeah, help me out. Write my whole campaign for me.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. Right. So that's one thing, like players like angels. Every time I've used angels on a couple of my campaigns. Like you guys said, you had some allies at the end of the level 1 through 20 Eberron campaign when you were fighting against the demon hordes and the demon lords. You were able to call upon some divas and planetars from the upper realms, the other planes in Eberron. Eberron is a little tricky with angels because there's not really like solid gods like in the Forgotten Realms, but you're still able to call upon them. Also, I have used the planetar and the solar as stat blocks before. Honestly, they are kind of my go-to for like high level things. If you guys remember the last fight against the big bad evil guy of that campaign, you went through 3 waves of combat. One was against giants, the second one was against manifestations of Sybaris, Kyber, and Eberron.
Mm-hmm.
For Sybaris, I used the solar stat block because it is just such a great high level CR monster that you can really reflavor to how you want.
Cool.
Love it.
Yep. There's also, I mean, you guys are all in my Avernus campaign, and I mean, you guys haven't really interacted with Zariel yet, but there's an angel.
Yeah, probably the only angel that I actually know a little bit about, and it's mostly from that campaign.
Exactly. I mean, and that's a cool thing. Like angels can be fallen angels that can really fill in a lot of roles. So like Zariel and Avernus is kind of the big bad. I guess that's kind of a spoiler, not really a spoiler. If you're running it on if you're in the first part of an Avernus campaign, I guess rewind 10 seconds and don't listen to that part. But other than that, I mean, it's on the cover. It's on the cover of the book. That's all.
Rewind and forget. Okay.
Rewind and be like,
Starting a gang.
Look over here, please.
yeah, just men in black yourself. But yeah, so like I said, these guys have a complicated history. So let's all get aboard. Okay, I don't. What would we get aboard? We're angels. Would we get upon a celestial bus? What would we?
Let's all ascend to the same plane of existence that these bad boys are on and discuss.
Hell yeah! Metal.
Great.
So let's talk about the history of the Diva, the Planetar, and the Solar. There are many other angels and celestials within the Dungeons and Dragons universe, but we are going to focus on those three because they're in the 5th edition monster manual, and also they have stayed the most consistent through 1st edition all the way to 5th edition. So before we jump into the actual Dungeons and Dragons lore of these creatures, I think we should talk about the real life history, because angels, obviously, unlike a lot of the things in the monster manual, have basis in the real world. Many religions have some form of angels in them, right? Like is being. So like angels is not, you could probably go around to anyone on the street and be like, oh, angels, and they would understand the concept. Like you can't do that with like a Bahir. You can't be like, oh, Bahirs, yes, the dragon lizard slayers.
Oh, right, yeah.
So like everyone already has yeah. Everyone
Hey, man, would you like to talk about our Lord and Savior, the Aboleth?
The Aboleth, exactly. I would. But so that's the kind of interesting thing about them. Angels people have ideas of already what ideas of angels will be. And that comes from pretty much whatever culture you grow up in. So when the Diva, Planetar, and Solar were added in Dungeons and Dragons, they definitely came from a place of real world religion and myth. So let's break down their names, because I think that's a good way to kind of figure out where they're coming from. So let's start with the Diva. Out of the three angels, Divas out of the three angels are the only ones with a name that is steeped in actual religion. So Diva comes from a Sanskrit, that language. It can be seen in early Hinduism, like scripts. I want to say Hindu scripts. That's where they appear. So like a Diva is a 1-to-1 translation from things in the Hindu religion. The Diva within that religion are referred to as supernatural beings and deities. And examples of Divas, which you guys are probably familiar with, and a lot of people are familiar with, is Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. So like
really,
yes, they are considered Divas, which is interesting in a way because Divas are the lowest CR rating out of the three angels, even though like when I think Vishnu, I think of this like super cosmic god, like but yeah, so in that we have those, a lot of high deities are considered Divas. The Divas represent the good and the supernatural. And when you translate Diva into English, you get the definition of heavenly, divine, anything of excellence, and donor of knowledge and resources. So
that's a pretty long-winded description for a 4-letter name.
I know, it really is. There's a lot of words that do that. So Diva, out of the three, the only one with the real world connection. Real world, like word to word. Then we move on to the Planetar, which is the second in line. It is the second strongest of the angels. And like Planetar, there is a lot. I mean, okay. Unlike Diva, there is not a Planetar that pops up in real world myth or real world religion. Do you guys kind of know where the word Planetar comes from?
When I hear it, I think of Minotaur, so it makes me think of like ancient Greece-ish around that kind of era. And instead of being like, Mino for like bull, I think planar for extra dimensional, extra being kind of thing. That's kind of where my connection goes.
Yeah. You are pretty spot on with that too. So Planetar, I had to break it apart because, like I said, there was not a real and planet, which is originally comes from the Greek word planar, is part of that planetar, and that means and has evolved over time to mean celestial body. So our planetar, with the name, you get this otherworldly celestial body. You think of the planets. You think of these really large ideas and things. So the planetar kind of has its origin in Greek mythology, because if you think Greek Roman gods are named after the celestial bodies, you kind of get that. You kind of, at least that's what I get from it. Like I said, there's not really a definition like from one to one, but that's kind of where I'm at with the planetar. And then we go on to the solar. Again, like the planetar, no one to one, but you have solar. You soul. SOL. You have the Norse god Sol. You have the Roman god Sol. Solar means sun. It is your strongest of the three angels. I mean, in many religions, the sun is represented as a main thing. Every religion too has some type of sun god. You have Ra.
We live.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much every religion worships the sun in some way. It's there. It's like the reason for life. So it makes sense that the solar is the most powerful of the angels. And yeah, so it's kind of relates like Ra, Apollo, Helios, Utu, Saint Michael, all that kind of stuff. So we already know from these angels that their names are already steeped in religion, mythology, kind of these very ancient ideas. We have Greece, Norse, Egyptian, Hindu, all these things. So with that in mind, let's jump into the actual Dungeons and Dragons history. So let's go the furthest back we've ever gone. I feel like every episode we're going just farther.
By the time we hit
past,
zombie,
like,
we're going to be back in like 300 BC.
Exactly. So I think Eric Kokra was 1984. Aboleth was like 1982. Tonight, we are starting in 1978. 4 years after the creation of Dungeons and Dragons.
The good old times.
The good old times, 1978. So, the first time we see angels is not in a core book, not in a monster manual or anything. We see them in Dragons Magazine. Have you guys ever looked at Dragons Magazine or know anything about it?
No.
I remember as a kid seeing them like sometimes pop up at like random like supermarket stores or like random hobby shops, and they're really cool. Dragon Magazine, for those who aren't aware, it was a very long running thing and a really staple of the community for the longest time. It ran from 1976 all the way to 2013, putting out a monthly magazine, and throughout the magazine you would have game designers, artists, players, dungeon masters, and even famous fantasy authors writing articles for the magazine. So probably the most famous writer who has appeared in Dragons Magazine would be George R.R. Martin, who was a contributor to the magazine, and also some of his books as a way to kind of get people to be interested in them. He would actually take pages from his books. I don't think of the Game of Thrones series, but he would take other stories, put like a few pages within Dragons Magazine to get people interested, which is kind of cool. I mean, know your target audience, I guess, because like
dragons. Was there a Dungeons magazine?
I don't know.
I think that's a different podcast, dude.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That would be really funny if there was a Dragons Magazine, then like 2 doors down there was a Dungeons Magazine, and they were always in competition. I'd watch that film.
Strange enough, they're both in garages.
Both, exactly. So, Dragon Magazine number 12, February 1978, is the first time we see actual angels ever referenced in Dungeons and Dragons. And Dragon Magazine wasn't like an official like thing, so you couldn't. It's like was like the Unearthed Arcana. So like, if you came to your dungeon master being like, "Look at all these angels in here," it wasn't like official. But the first time we get any glimpses at any angels is an article written by Jerome Arkenberg. and it is called The Persian Mythos. This article was called The Persian Mythos, which I found very interesting because if you look in the monster manual now or any really Dungeons and Dragons things with angels, you get this very strong idea of like a judo Christian type angel, like big white feathery wings, holy persona. But it starts from the Persian idea of angels. Persian, I mean the religion Zoroastrianism, which has a different take on angels. So that was in 1978. You could actually pick up this magazine, read through the article, and they would have stat blocks for like the very specific angels of that religion. So it'd be like the equivalent if someone wrote like the saints of Catholicism in Dragons magazine and then gave like all like the saints stat blocks. So you could like pull them in. Yeah. So it's kind of strange there. But that's the first time we see them. So it's interesting. So we got that, and then we pushed forward 2 more years. So again in Dragons magazine, this time in Dragon magazine's number 35, there was an article just titled Angels. That was it. Nothing else fancy. Just Angels. Big bold letters. And was written by William Fawcett. So William Fawcett wrote this article called Angels. And in this article, William discusses the hierarchy of the celestial angels in the Judeo-Christian realm and discusses how many of the angels we know today came from religions and deities that came before the major religions. It was actually a very like intellectual and very interesting read. Honestly, if you're interested in anything from Dragon magazines, there's archives online where you can go read all the way back to issue 1 to like all the way to issue 300 and something when they ended. There's some really cool articles, really deep dives. I will have to say there are a lot of articles back in the 70s and 80s that don't hold up today just because of some ideas that were not the
What do
greatest.
you mean?
Yeah, you know what I mean.
No.
Right, no, Dungeons and Dragons magazines being a little colored. But yeah, anyway, I honestly go check them out. They're cool. They have really cool art and stuff. I think every single magazine I looked on had like, so I did a lot of research through a lot of Dragon magazines for this episode, and I swear, like 9 out of 10 of them had like on page 3 like a full ad for samurai swords.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
They know their audience.
they know their audience, so it was cool.
Do you think the publication of Angels in Dragons magazine helped fuel the Satanic Panic?
I like the question, and I think possibly, and we will actually talk about the Satanic Panic very soon in this about the Angels,
I
because
will ask other questions.
that is a very good leadway, because the Satanic Panic plays a huge role in this whole Angels things. Is I should note, as of right now, as of 1978, 1974, well, 1974, yeah. So I will let you guys know when the Angels are called Angels for the first time, because so far, other than these magazines, they do not get the actual term Angels until a way later edition. They are called different things. They skirt around it. But so 1980, another 2 years goes by, and we go back to Dragon magazine. This time, Dragon magazine number 63, and this time it is written by the legend himself, Gary Gygax. And he started this section. Yeah, I think he like started some game or something. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
All the time.
It's on that Futurama.
Yeah, I don't know. So Gary Gygax, he began writing these articles, which if you don't know who Gary Gygax is, he is one of the co-creators of Dungeons and Dragons. Very famous. He's the one who got Dungeons and Dragons off the ground. I mean, there was people along the way helping him and stuff, but he is like the name brand person for doing it. He started writing articles that would start being like, hey, we're working on the monster manual and stuff, but in the meantime, while we're taking some years and working on this, here are some monsters that you could throw in your game. So it's kind of like teasers. It's like if Wizards of the Coast nowadays was like, oh, we're releasing Tasha's Hideous Laughter. Now, that's the spell. What is it? Tasha's Cauldron of some Secrets or something?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Tasha's
And
Cauldron or something.
Yeah, so it's like if they started like releasing like spells in a magazine, being like, "Oh, this is coming out soon," but like, hold you over here spells, which was kind of cool that they were doing that, like releasing monsters. But anyway, Gary Gygax, in this, he listed 3 types of divas. So this is our first appearance of divas of the 3 angels we will be talking about tonight, and that is 1982. And so that is 8 years after the creation of Dungeons and Dragons. We get these. And something I learned is that 5th edition is really the only edition since 1st edition that has not had more than one type of diva. So
Huh.
5th edition only has 1, but through my research, it seems like every other edition had at least 3. And those 3
Well,
were your Astral Diva, your Movenic Diva, and your Mondic Diva. So your Astral Diva is quick and nimble from the astral plane. Your Movenic Diva had a flame tongue and was from the material plane, and Mondic Diva was an angel from the ethereal plane. And now I'm going to put my conspiracy hat on because I should note that I have a interest in the cult. I like learning about the cult. Movenic and Mondic, I immediately noticed those words, and that is because they come from occult teachings, more specifically the occult teachings of theosophy, in which I know about it because Aleister Crowley was part of it. So that's strange to me that Gary Gygax was pulling in these like cult terms for angels. I mean, there's probably like a greater meaning behind it, but if you know anything about Gary Gygax, he was also very religious. So
Like he was a Christian.
yes, he's very
Okay.
I don't know what sect he was, but that is something to note very much about Gary Gygax is he was outwardly religious. That was something about him. That's a fun fact if you didn't know. So, like, using these occult terms in it was kind of interesting to me, and it definitely gets more interesting when we go into the Satanic Panic in a couple years. So, yeah, we have the 3 divas appear in 1982. And then in the issue after Dragon Magazine number 63, we get to Dragon Magazine 64, in which Gary Gygax introduces the Planetar and Solar. So these 3 angels, these 3 spirits, these 3 beings have always been very close to each other. They've always come in like a pack of 3. Like Diva was released 1 month, a month after the other 2 were released. So they've always had a close tie. And there is a hierarchy that we will get into why that is. They each have their own role in the D&D universe. So I just hit my mic. Sorry about that. 1982, we go to 1983. Wait, did I say 1982? We go then to 1983. Monster Manual 2 is released. If we remember from last episode, that is when the Aboleth was released also. But this is the official release of I can't say angel. I keep wanting to say angels. They're not called angels yet. That is important to note. Monster Manual 2, 1983 is the first time Solar, Planetar, and Diva are actually officially in Dungeons and Dragons. And in that they establish that there is a hierarchy. Solar is going to be your leader, your top angel. They're almost gods in their own right, very powerful. They don't really intervene in that of mortals. Your Planetar are I like to reference the Judge Dredd of the angel world. They go and slay evil. They don't question things. They see evil. Boom. So if you have an evil person in your party, even if they're technically doing good, Planetar comes by, smite. That's it. And then your Diva. Smite. Then we move on to the Diva, which is the lowest, is still CR 10 and 5e, but your Diva is your messenger and your like person who guides the mortal.
You do look like a delivery boy.
Are these people from a specific plane as of like this time in history that we are talking about? Are they
83? They were just they were considered beings from the outer planes of good. That is what.
Okay, so like at this point in time in the early 80s, there wasn't a multiverse or anything of that sort.
There was, but there wasn't like Mount Olympia or like Asgard or anything like that yet. It was more like, oh, the upper planes of good, and then like the lower planes of good, and
okay,
yeah. So now we get to talk about one of my favorite topics that we could absolutely do a side episode on. We get to talk about the Satanic Panic. Insert metal, So, Satanic Panic, for those who aren't aware, didn't know about it, or know a little bit about it. I'm only going to get into it a little bit right now. Like I said, it could probably be an episode on its own if we ever did like a history check episode on it. And also, I think we're going to spend a lot of time of devils and demons talking about the Satanic Panic. But the Satanic Panic happened in like late 80s, went through the 90s. And it was this movement that unfortunately came from tragedy and it was ill-placed, but there was some suicides that people blamed Dungeons and Dragons on and metal music and all that stuff. And religious organizations decided that there was Satan in these games and music and stuff. So they started a crusade to really just destroy these games and stuff. So like I said, that is like a little bit into like the actual deep what the Satanic Panic is. It is a really interesting subject. If you are interested in it, I definitely recommend going and learning more about it. It is definitely an interesting period of time, and we're still kind of dealing with its consequences. I mean, I remember in elementary school, kids telling me that they couldn't read Harry Potter because it was satanic. So like, it's been around. It's still around, kind of.
Knew a kid that didn't have a TV.
Really?
For that same reason.
Yeah, so like crazy. We've all been hit by it. So with the Satanic Panic also comes the release of the second edition of Dungeons and Dragons, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons second edition, if you will. That's the official term. We have our Diva, our Solar, and our Planetar return. Still not as angels, but instead they are as Azimon, which is a funny way of calling them angels. Here, I know it's Asimon, so it's A.
Like Azamar, but Azamon.
Yes, yeah, yes, exactly. And I think there's connections there. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons second edition, Azimon. So yeah, like I was saying, they still aren't angels in second edition. Second edition came out in 1991. That's kind of the time period. But with that, the Azimon come, which, like you say, the Azamar, I feel like they have definitely similar names. They have to be connected somehow. Unfortunately, I did not find any of that in my research. But the demons and devils also have a crazy name during this time. They're no longer called demons or devils. And Planescape kind of helped with that. They're called like Balthar.
Are they called Christians and Christs?
Christians and Christ. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't like some type of game that was created like around that time where you did that and you played as like biblical creatures just to like counter Dungeons and Dragons. So that's really the big thing to note about second editions with these Solar, Planetar, and Divas is that they're not angels, they're not spirits, they're Azimon. They're like almost alien creatures because they really wanted to step away from religious iconography at this point just because of the Satanic Panic. Then we move on to third edition, which is later in the 90s, early 2000s, and still no angels to their names. They're just called Celestials, but the Azimon name goes away also. So Azimon is really only in second edition. They're called Azimon for like second edition. Second edition is wild. That's also when Planescape came out and stuff. It was like in the middle of the Satanic Panic, and they really had to like play around with ideas and making D&D not seem as like satanic. And I'm air quoting because this is a podcast, so you guys can't see visually what I'm doing, but that was air quotes. So they really had to play around to make Dungeons and Dragons not satanic looking. So we go to third edition, and still no angels to their name. Like I said, they have a celestial subtext. That's what they're categorized as. And the thing to note about third edition, Diva, Solar, and Planetar is you could actually play as a Diva in third edition. That was a playable race.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah, I want my level 1.
Are they like
be a CR10 Diva, please?
Yeah. They were nerfed. They were like the actual we have in our monster manual. Like they almost seemed like Asmar, if like that's kind of like what they were called. But you could play as a diva. It came out with a supplement called Savage Species, which allowed the players to play as divas, which was
that didn't age well.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in Dungeons and Dragons that unfortunately did not age well. But I mean, it is we have to like talk about it. But yeah. So finally, 20 years after the release of Dungeons and Dragons, 20 years after the first stat block in Dungeons and Dragons. Now I'm calling it Dungeons and Magazines. Finally, 20 years after the first stat block in Dragons magazine, the Diva, the Planetar, and the Solar get the tag of Angels. So it takes them from first edition all the way to 3.5 edition, and that is when they become Angels. So it's been a long journey. Thanks to the Satanic Panic and all that stuff. So that's 3.5 edition. Finally, Angels. No longer Azamon. 4th edition. They add a shit ton of angels. So 4th edition, you had Angels of Battle, Angels of Protection, Angels of Vengeance, Angels of Valor, on and on and on. Those were taken away in 5th edition, unfortunately. But let's talk 5th edition, because that is what this podcast is about. That's the history. It's long. It's crazy. It's been a long journey. But let's talk 5th edition. So 5th edition, we have the Diva, the Planetar, and the Solar. No other real angels. The Coatel are kind of angelic beings, but they're not. They're celestial. But we have
winged serpents.
Yeah, they're like winged serpents. They're not really angels. I always think of them as angels, but they're not. They're in a weird category too. If we talk celestials, like there's only like a handful of celestials, and it's like the angels, the Coatel, and like unicorns. And I think Pegasus is, which it's a weird category. But let's talk 5th edition angels. So this is how the angels are seen and treated in 5th edition. So they're called angels in this edition. It clearly says in the monster manual angels. So that stayed over since from 3.5 edition. 3.5. It's weird to say like 3.5 edition. Dungeons & Dragons 3.5, it stayed over with. But in this one, they are no longer just like these beings from the upper planes. In 5th edition, they are actually formed by the gods. So they are the troops, the messengers, all that of all your favorite Forgotten Realms gods, all of your Eberron gods. Any setting you're playing on, angels will most likely be servants of the gods. And that's important to note because they will act out the will of those who created them. Angels don't really have free will.
If we want to extrapolate further, we can say that nobody has free will.
Oh my god. Free will is a lie. Anyway, so angels don't really have free will. Some of them do, and then you kind of get the case of Zariel when angels do get free will. So they carry out the will of those who created. They are incapable of straying from good and law, or they become fallen, which again Zariel. And then, like I was talking about earlier, we have our divas. These are your divine messengers and agents to the material plane. The divas aren't really going to be your combat angels. They are really usually sent down by the gods to look over like different civilizations. They have polymorphs, so you'll see them like transform into like the old hermit who lives in the town who's always doing good, but it's possibly a diva because that's what they do. They don't really they can fight, which when we get into the comment section we'll talk about. They can fight, but they are not really there to fight. Then we move on to our Planetar, which I already have called them the Judge Dredd of the angels. Like, they are sent down, they are told to kill, they are told to smite, and they destroy evil. That is their job. They are the warrior angels. So if a Planetar is coming after your party, it's most likely because you guys are evil as fuck. Evil as frick. Shit. They're evil.
They are evil as all heck.
Zach, why might a Planetar come after your party?
Oh, it's because your party is probably evil. Because because
they're super evil. Got it.
Yeah, so yeah, your Planetars, they are, I think, okay. where is this line? Oh, it also says Planetars can call down to like relieve drought and stuff, but like while Diva will probably be there like hiding out in the town, guiding people nonchalantly, a Planetar comes down and it's like hovering over your town. It's like, let there be no more rain, or let there be rain. Like it's this overbearing being. It can't even polymorph, which I think the other two can. Nope, only the Diva can. So yeah, Planetars are always very, very straightforward in what they're doing. They're either going to smite, they're going to go do good. But that when a Planetar appears, it's really like a direct order from the gods. So someone's been praying a lot in town if a Planetar is appearing, or they're fighting a war against demons or devils. And then we have the third of our angels, the strongest of the angels, a CR21 angel, and that is our Solar. And like I said earlier in the episode, they are almost godlike their own right. There's CR21, and in 5th edition, it is important to note that there are only 24 Solars that exist. So
there it is.
Yep, only 24 of them. And
are they all named?
I tried to find the names of them, and there's a few forums online where people are like, does anyone know the names of all Solars? And it doesn't seem like it.
Okay.
Make them up. Be creative. Have fun with the.
Yeah, you know, like Zappity Zoo. Like there's 3 of them.
Or Krishna.
I named mine Tevis.
You could just take it. You could just steal it.
All right, Shayne, what'd you name yours?
I named mine Tevis.
That's a good name for a Solar.
Yeah. So if you guys happen across a Solar,
name Tevis.
Yeah, don't be shocked if it's named familiar.
Yeah.
You're thinking of a different
name is Tevis.
I'm so honored.
Oh my god. But like so 24 Solars, a handful of them work for like specific gods. The rest of them, it says, are waiting for a cosmic evil to appear to destroy them. Thing to note, Zariel was a Solar before she fell. So Zariel, who is now an Archdevil, has the equivalent strength of a Solar if you're trying to like figure out like the 1-to-1 comparison.
So, question to that.
Yes.
Is Zariel still considered one of the 24 after falling from grace?
That is a good question. I'm not sure, but I want to say yes. Because I feel like it notes that she is a Solar. So maybe like there's only 23 left, and because she fell, she actually became she became a fiend when she fell. But I don't think that like if one of the Solar disappears, like another one's created.
I may be jumping ahead, but how did she fall?
So we know that's actually the next step. So the next thing about 5th edition is it also talks about fallen angels, because that is possible, which is cool that they add that on, because it gives you the chance to like use the angels as combatants or villains and stuff, because you're most likely not running an evil party. I feel like those aren't the more rare chance. So like angels will usually be there to guide and stuff, but if you have fallen angels or some other way, like you can do that. But the most notable fallen angel, as we've said before, is Zariel. She was once a Solar responsible for tracking and watching over the blood war on Avernus. Avernus being the top layer in the 9 hells. So her job was to go keep an eye on the blood war, make sure things weren't getting out of hand, and just kind of, yeah, which is really ironic for what happens. So as she's doing that, she begins developing her own free will. It is said that possibly Avernus began warping her, but as she watched the blood war, which the blood war simplified is a war between the devils and the demons that is greatly being fought on Avernus. That is one of the main battlefields they're fighting for control. But as Zariel watched, she began to question why the other angels and the celestials and the gods weren't getting involved with the blood war. Why were they not going down and stopping both the demons and devils? So she got an army. Most notable, an army from El Trial called Hell Riders, which if you're playing the Avernus campaign, you would have heard of them. And she led an assault into Avernus, the top layer of hell, and she lost. But with that, Asmodeus saw this and took her and offered her Avernus And because she was fallen at this point, she has turned her back on the Celestials and the other angels. She accepted it. So she is now no longer a Solar. She is the Archduchess of Avernus. She is the leader of that lair.
Does she maintain her title of angel?
She is not. I'm pretty sure in Mordenkainen's and in Avernus, she is considered a fiend.
Oh, Mordenkainen's, you say? Say less.
So anyway, most notable fallen angel is Ariel. She is now like a leader of a plane of hell. So that kind of shows you how strong the Solars are, is that they can go pretty much toe to toe with the archdevils, and I mean even take over for an archdevil. So Solars are your big bad angels, not big bad, big good angels, but they're usually only going to get involved if like realms are going to get destroyed. The last thing to note on 5th edition angels is that they are immortal creatures, which is not really something I like. That's surprising. They don't have to eat, sleep, or drink, and they don't age. They are celestials. With that being said, let's take a look at the stat blocks. Let's kind of see what these celestial beings can do, what's impressive about them, what's not impressive about them. And spoiler alert, there's not a lot that's not impressive about them.
Yeah, I was just looking at the Diva stat block, and they got three 20s. Was it? Did I count 3?
Close, 2 20s and 3 18s.
Yeah. Also 60 or 90 flying treat.
Yes, so
flying treat. Oh my god.
Flying treat. Let us
in cat mind right now.
Yeah, exactly. Let us start with divas. So your diva is going to be your CR10 creature, your CR10 angel. Like I said before, they aren't too keen on fighting. They are not the warrior angels. They are the messengers or those sent to watch over flocks of people. So you can see that in their stat block. I mean, they can still kick some butt. Like, they still do damage, but you can see that they're more of like the messenger, less of the intense angels. What do you guys note in this stat block?
Well, they got 90 feet of flight.
Yep.
Pretty wild.
Oh, yeah, that is, yeah. I mean, we were like freaking out about our Kokra speed of what was like 30 feet. I mean, these guys are like 12 CR ratings higher than them, but we were like, oh my, these things go so fast. And here we have the Diva that has 30 feet of land movement and 90 feet of flying movement, which means even your monk using the dash action or anything like that is going to have a hard time keeping up to this Diva without even it using its dash action or anything.
I think the healing touch is a nice feature. I don't think it's super busted for a CR10, but I think it's definitely very nice.
I think, yeah, it's very
like you managed to befriend it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, thinking that too, like, the angels are probably more there to help someone fight in a way. Like, the healing touch is a really nice way of adding, like, a support option in with the monsters, which you don't see that often. Even there's... Oh, yep, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I mean, they also know all languages?
Yeah.
Also, they can speak telepathically?
Yep. They have telepathy, and they speak all languages.
Yeah, they can cast spells.
Yes, and I was just going to talk about the spells, seeing that their spells are not combat-oriented. They're very much like Healing Touch. They're support spells. Detect Evil and Good. I mean, you can find the Fiend in the group. Commune. It's probably going to be speaking to its god, whoever created it. And Raise Dead. Those
that kind of is like a little off-putting. Like, why would an angel know Raise Dead?
That is true.
It's raising dead in a good way.
It's the opposite of a necromancer, but it is. I feel like the Raised Dead on a Diva, like that's probably like, even though it can do it once a day, I feel like that has to be like an exact, like a super rare occurrence, because I don't know any of the gods who are like, oh yeah, everyone dies, let's bring them back. I'm not familiar with any gods that are like that in the Dungeons and Dragons lore. So like raise dead, like it is kind of weird. And now that you said it, it's off-putting. Like I don't know why a diva would raise the dead. You think they'd be very much like if the guy dies.
If they were fighting alongside other angels.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maintain their army of celestial bodies.
Maybe.
That
Seems pretty logical.
Yeah. With their melee, like I said, these angels aren't really fighters, but they can fight. They have a lot of resistances. They have a lot of immunities. Their melee attack is a normal mace attack, but you add 48 radiant damage, so that's like a 4th level or 3rd level paladin smite every hit attack. Because smites use d8s, so it's also kind of very thematic in that way. They're always smiting.
Yeah, Diva seems to be very much built to be a monster paladin, so to speak, in terms of
That's a good way
that block.
That's a very good way of putting it. They're just there to kind of use sport, or like, if you need a paladin.
To guide the party, like, I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. Like, they're not really like, you won't ever see them fighting, but you will contact them, or maybe like talk to them
and
in some capacity.
It's like because it's probably the last resort. Like it's probably like the devils are overcoming this town, and even though he was sent to watch, like that even might be like a moral quandary because it's. This is something I was going to talk about later, but I think we can talk about now. Angels are weird in the way that, how do I want to say this? Gods and angels have always been weird to me in Dungeons and Dragons, not for the fact that they're there, but for the fact that I think we can all agree that the party is the main characters, like 99%. Like, so like you always I've always found at least, you always have to kind of be like, why aren't the angels intervening? And like you have to be like, okay, well, like there's a reason. So it's like, I don't know. Does anyone else feel like that? Like, why aren't the angels coming down and
would
stopping?
Have to be dire, for sure.
I honestly I always view, and like this is just my opinion. I'm not saying this is by any means canon. I always view anything of a radiant origin to inherently be flawed to the extent of it almost being evil. Right?
I would agree.
In a way.
So it's very easy, like if you think of any kind of what's what I'm looking for? Like any kind of crusade of any sort in the name of God, it's always a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, the intent is good, but the means are just absolutely awful, right? So I feel like that kind of goes hand in hand with D&D lore, right? If angels and gods were to want to intervene, the intent would be good, but I feel like the results would be catastrophic.
I completely agree.
Like sentient godlike beings would understand this.
Yes, I completely agree. I think angels are the meme. They are the meme of the lawful stupid paladin. That is what all angels are. They have a code, and it says it in their lore. Like they cannot break their code. Like
right, yeah.
We're going to talk about the planetars, and it says that planetars and angels, if they are sent to smite something, they do it without remorse. So a god could send them to do something, and they could like make it be good in a way, but like maybe there's a god who sees the party doing something that would eventually end to evil. They would send a planetary, no matter whatever, if the party thought they were doing or was doing good in the grand schemes of things, it like end up making things a little bad. Like I could definitely see a planetary being sent down, and they wouldn't be like, you couldn't like try to do diplomacy with it. It's to rightfully smite you down.
No deliberation whatsoever.
So what you said, Anderson, I completely agree with. They're almost like the Dr. Manhattan of the Monster Manual. Like they're so removed from, they're so logical almost of like the greater cosmos of like good and bad that they don't see how mortals see, like how there's gray areas. It's only black and white to them.
Yeah, definitely like interactions between mortals and like angels would always go bad for mortals, and they would probably see them as more prickly than anything,
Exactly.
like stubborn, hard-headed.
So, with that being said, let us move to the Planetar and look at their stat blocks. Like I said, I like to call them the Judge Dredd of the Angels because, like I said, they are sent down to smite without remorse. They are judge, jury, and executioner. And I mean, their stat block shows that.
I think of Thor.
Yeah, Thor is a good.
Be gone, evil doer.
So, if we talked about the Diva having 90 feet movements, fly speed, crazy. The Planetar has 120 feet of movement speed. Fly movement speed. Altogether, they have 160 movement speed per turn. These angels are fast. They are going fast all the time. Their lowest score in the stat block is a 19, so a plus for intelligence. Everything is either at 20 or over 20, including their strength at 24 and their charisma at 25.
Man,
Yeah.
The true sight, though, too.
Constitution is 24 as well.
Yeah, and their saving throws for con is plus 12. Yeah, and
I think what like really sticks out to me for some reason is they have on average 200 health at CR 16. While that's not innately super standoutish, so to speak.
Yeah.
If you were to actually roll for their health, there's a good chance you get 230, 240.
Oh, exactly.
And you
Yeah.
can healing them 4 times a day for 30 average.
Yep.
The
They-
only
The consistency they have is
this is something I want to ask you guys because I don't think the angels can actually heal themselves because normally with healing it says you touch a creature.
Oh, it does say that touch another creature.
So I don't because that's immediately what I thought until I like read it a few times. But angels can't heal themselves, which is kind of interesting. Which is kind of the self-righteous thing. But like Tevis said, they also have true sight. Which
Yeah.
Yeah. And it knows if it hears a lie. That's so cool. Divine awareness is such a cool thing.
It is. So that's why like
Divine awareness. What the fuck? Okay. Yeah, good luck talking to this guy.
Yeah, that's why
I mean,
the Judge Dredd. They go down there. You try to lie. Your bard tries to lie them. Oh no, we didn't just steal all the wine from the tavern.
Yeah, the bard. Yeah, trust the bard, guys. Trust the bard to talk to the fucking angel.
Exactly. And with that, I mean, plus 12 to hit with the greatsword. You just at that point.
Oh wow.
You just have to roll over a 10 to even hit like the highest armored person in your party, most likely. Like you're gonna hit, and you're gonna do it twice, and you get the equivalent of a max level paladin smite every time you hit.
Yeah, don't piss this guy off.
Exactly.
Jesus.
So, and then that's the Planetar, and then the last stat block we got is the big dog on top, the one out of the 23 Solars who wait to fight cosmic justice.
So if I just want to point out one more thing in the Planetar real quick.
Definitely.
They have a plus 11 to perception, which means their passive perception is 21.
Yep.
Nothing makes it past this thing.
ACR.
Sees all that true sight. You can't lie to it. Like that. Like most times, like monsters and things, you can have like role play. Like,
yeah, not this thing. Judge Dredd is a great fucking example.
like you're just gonna roll up to it and be like, it is what it is. It is just gonna kill you if you've done anything that it's the gods deem evil.
Mm-hmm.
But it also has like
I'm
control.
just getting nervous thinking about it.
It can help, I guess, with control weather and stuff.
I want to take back what I said. The Solar is more like Thor.
Yeah, so it has a flying sword. Oh, also something to note, which I think is really funny, is so the Diva had at will detect evil and good. The Planetar has invisibility at will. So like
Jesus Christ.
walking down like the road, no. boom, large celestial angel just floating above the party. You will be judged.
Oh, that's how I would love to picture that. Like, imagine like your party's walking down the street, and they just hear like a mirror just shatter in front of them, and just reality and space just explodes around them with holy fragments of glass flying through the air. And there's a planetar standing at like a whopping 15 feet tall, sword already stabbed into the ground, looking down at your party, saying just that you are here to be judged, and that goes into this whole fucking spiel. My God, these things are cool.
Yeah, they're so cool. That's why I like the idea of fallen angels, because, or like the thing you brought up, like you don't even need to do fallen angels, like have them going against a good party. If the gods deem them to be doing something evil, even though if it's not like morals don't see it as evil, like the planetars can be sent. But let's go to the Solars. So the Solars are going to appear at the end of the battles. This is like the Earth is about to get consumed by maybe the Aboleth's cult has finally worked out, and the Aboleths are slowly taking over. Which the Solar appears, and like no shit. We're just gonna swear this podcast now. No shit that the Aboleth Empire got destroyed when you have Solars just chilling around.
Are Solars what came down and wiped them out?
I'm guessing it says that the gods came down, so I'm guessing the gods actually like had their troops and stuff. So I'm guessing like Solars were there, and if the Planetar's lowest ability score was 19, we have the lowest ability score of a Solar at 22.
You know, I mentioned that I was very impressed with the Solar or the Planetar's health of 200.
Yeah.
Solar being at on average 243, that seems kind of underwhelming to me.
I would
at a CR 21.
Yeah, it is kind of low. I think, yeah, I don't even know like how it would go against it. Like they are resistant and immune to like a lot of things. I mean, I guess they're immune to necrotic, and I think that their main people they're fighting is probably demons and devils. That probably negates a lot of the damage.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the health is a little low. Their armor class is 21, but still CR 21. If you're fighting this, like you're gonna be hitting your party's gonna be hitting over 21 pretty consistently. They have a movement speed of 200 per turn, which can usually just go from like one side of the battle map to the other side to the other back again, in like any normal battle map. So
are you able to combine those two numbers like that?
yeah, if they're like running and then they fly.
Okay.
200 feet.
Now I know.
Yeah,
What the fuck? In 6 seconds.
As flight.
Yeah.
Dude, that guy, like, you could kill someone just by moving near them.
Just like running through them.
Yeah,
Body
like,
check.
what the fuck is that?
You cannot
Oh my
occupy
God.
the same space, otherwise they take 12d10 force damage from this fucking angel tackle.
Exactly. So let's go through. The Solar has a lot of things that Diva and Planetar has. It knows if it hears a lie, so again, you're not talking to this thing and like lying to it. It has passive perception in 24. That's true sight. It knows all language. It has telepathy. It has a bunch of spells it can do. This one, Solar's going to be invisible at will also. It knows resurrection and blade barrier that it can do. Oh,
Resurrection.
yeah. Something we didn't note on Planetars is that they have magic resistance. Actually, all three angels have magic resistance, so that means any spells cast on them, the angels are going to have advantage against it. So, who's that?
Yeah, so good
God.
luck.
The Solar's DC, spell saving DC, is a 25.
So,
25. Could you imagine if you slapped Banish on this bad boy and
You'd be gone.
it casts Banish and you have to make a DC 25 Charisma saving throw? Yeah, literally a third of all D&D classes are Charisma-based spellcasters. I get that, but that's still an unbelievably high number.
and I mean, it has like a lesser banishment. It has Dispel Evil and Good, so like it's going to be doing that to like fiends and stuff. It's just going to be like, oh yeah, you're going back to the Nine Hells, or you're going back to the Abyss, so maybe you're going to go back to Isgard. I don't even know why you're here. Bam. But
F you, F you, F you. You're cool. F you.
pretty much as long as just like picking people out, it could be 3 times a day, so 3 people can just be sent back. Let's talk about its attacks though. So it has some pretty cool ones. I mean, your greatsword is going to do 46 plus 8. It's a plus 15 to hit. It's hitting every turn pretty much. Like it just has to roll a 5 to get over at AC 20. So it's gonna hit pretty much every turn.
4d6 plus an additional 6d8
Yep,
with a flat 8 modifier or damage bonus.
Yep. So if things hurt, they can do that twice. But let's talk about their slaying longbow.
That longbow is insane. It'll kill you. It'll
It'll just kill you.
just kill you.
I mean, the con save is kind of low-ish.
Con save at the point you're dealing with that is very low.
It is very low.
At 15 for the public to know.
I will, yes, it is DC 15. The con saving throw is low. I will make the argument, though, is a lot of the save or die spells are usually like can only be used once a day, or like if you pass it, like it can't be done again. This
It's
thing,
consistent.
you use it every single round.
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
And just to clear up the air, just so anyone listening knows, it is a regular longbow, plus 13 to hit, 2d8 damage, plus 6 with an additional 68 radiant damage. If you have 100 hit points or fewer, you need to make a DC 15 con saving throw. If you fail, you are flat out dead. You just drop dead. No saving throws, nothing. Over.
It's gone. I actually
not set to 0. Dead.
No, you're just dead. You have to use resurrection to get back. Like you're just gone. Like
Do not pass go. Do not make 3 death saving throws.
exactly. And I mean, it's a longbow, so it has a high range. I mean, I'm guessing most Solars are going to be somewhat like honorable, so they're not going to do the cheese strat of flying like 500 feet up in the air and just like.
You know what? I think it depends on, at least from my perspective, I think it really depends on who they're fighting, right?
Ooh,
If they're sent to deal with the party of main characters, no, probably not. You know, it would probably have a sense of like, you aren't innately evil. You have just done wrong by my superiors. You know, I'm here to end you, but I'll give you a fair shake. In the Blood War, fuck literally everything below me and just rain arrows from the heavens.
True. I can just imagine it sitting up there like demon pit lords, all these things, and just standing up and just like releasing torrents, like almost like Icarus in Smash Bros. In its own game. Like,
right. I would even like imagine it would be like distasteful shooting. Like he wouldn't even draw all the way back, like kind of like halfway double finger and just lightly letting go and just casually pulling the string back because they're just so beneath him.
Along with that, we have Flying Sword. This is going to be your Thor-like ability. The Solar can release its great sword and make it hover. In an unoccupied space, it can make it fly up to 50 feet away from it and use a bonus action to attack, and it can like bring it back. So this is like thematically, it's like throwing its sword, it's shooting arrows, while its like sword is like flying behind its back, hitting things. Cool stuff. It has Healing Touch. And then it has legendary actions because it is a high CR. It has the ability to teleport. So if you thought the 200 feet were crazy, it only takes 1 legendary action to teleport 120 feet away. So if you add that onto the movement, it can like,
jeez,
you're not getting close to this unless it wants you to. It has Searing Burst, which kind of it's a high DC to make, but the damage is
basically a mini fireball cast from him.
Exactly. It's 2 actions. I'll say it's not like the most impressive thing ever, but you need to get things. If the Solar needs to like eliminate the back line or like break concentrations or like deal with hordes of things, that's definitely good. It has a Blinding Gaze, which again, this thing allows any creature within 30 feet of it. It can target one of them, and it can make it. It'll make that creature do a Constitution saving throw. The DC is only 15, so still kind of low on the lower end for this high FCR monster. But if they do fail, they are blinded until magic such as Lesser Restoration, such as the Lesser Restoration spell removes the blindness. So that's
permanent blindness.
Yeah, pretty much. Hopefully your druid or cleric took that today. Because like you're blind. Normally with those kinds of saves, it's like at the end of each of your turns, you can roll to see if you're not blind. You're just blind.
That's so insane. Like, if you think about it outside of combat, this angel can permanently blind someone every 6 seconds.
I didn't even think about it like that, but you're right.
That's insane. It can teleport 360 feet every 6 seconds.
And then fly another 150.
That's 520 feet of movement in 6 seconds.
Yeah. Anything else?
I like to imagine the combination of the teleport and the fly and running is literally like him Hulk jumping, you know? Takes like one leap, one wing burst behind him, goes like a third, like 50 feet, lands, takes a couple steps, jumps again another 50 feet, teleporting between each land, you know? Like, oh, that'd be so cool.
Yeah, does anyone have anything else to say about these stat blocks before we move on to the third and final part of our episode?
Sort of. It's not so much on the stat block, but it's just a question for all the DMs in this chat, what your ruling would be, so to speak.
Yeah.
If you were to run a Solar in your game and you use the flying sword action and just release it, and let's say, you know, you're in close quarters, you don't want to pull out your bow. So you square to square, like head to head, toe to toe, go up fisticuffs with whoever's in front of you. So you got a monk or a raging barbarian with no weapons. You let go of the flying sword and you go toe to toe with them fisticuffs. Would you give angelic weapons to their melee fist attacks?
I would.
They're freaking angels, man.
I feel like they're being so pure. I feel like, I would rule it because, I mean, also, thematically, that's badass. It's just like punch smiting you.
Yeah.
So, I guess I have a question about the flying sword.
Yeah.
So, you can release it into an unoccupied space, but if it can see it, it can mentally command it to fly up to 50 feet as a bonus action.
Yep.
And it gets to make an attack.
Yep.
Is it its own attack? Can I just bonus action, let it go, and just send it?
So it says if the solar can see the sword, the solar can mentally command it as a bonus action to fly up to 50 feet and make one attack against the target or return to the solar sign. Yeah, so you can just use a bonus action to get a third attack.
Bonus action, send it, smack.
So,
Bring out that bow and shoot the guy that it smacks. Or I guess just multi-attack because you can.
So imagine this. Let me paint you a picture, right?
Paint it.
Solar's got the sword in his hand.
Okay.
Enemy in front of him, and he comes cleaving down with his first strike. And as he connects with the creature and follows through with his blade, when his hand is pointing towards the floor, he lets go, and this sword flying circles around him and comes clean down in the second spot, while he's already pulling up with his left hand, catches it after the second strike, and comes up with the third for his second attack action of his turn, hitting him with all three.
Solars are just like so cool. Like all the things they can do, like in a fight, it's so impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, let us go and move on to the third part of our episode. And let's talk about how we'd use these guys in our game. So this time, instead of having one monster, we have Divas, Solars, Planetars. We don't have to say what we'd use all of them for, but we can kind of give some insight how we'd use these angels in our game. So, like always, let's talk about how we'd use these guys socially. How would we use them as role playing? How would we use them to set up an adventure and all that stuff?
I see them as the helpers.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like a crutch, but I mean, maybe if the DM needs that, and you do have some holy folk that are looking for guidance, you can always use them to kind of point your party in a direction if they're kind of lost.
Yeah.
Or if you
Send a diva.
want to point them in a very specific direction, you can do that too. You can be a little more forceful with it. You could give people I imagine you could just give people visions of these things if they were religious in that way. It would probably just make them do whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the Diva's whole job, quote unquote job. They're there for guidance and messengers. They're disguised there to send messages. So a diva would be a great quest giver. It doesn't even have to reveal it's a diva. It could just be oh man.
Right.
So, if you were to give a name to any of these creatures, you should definitely take inspiration from those like 90s women rock artists like Alanis Morissette or Sarah McLachlan or
Jewel.
Jewel, yeah.
I don't know where you're going with
That's awesome. That's so funny.
I have a diva in my campaign. His name is Vinoir.
Damn. You gonna take that, Zach?
It was a god. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, see, that proves his point.
He brushes his shoulders on.
So, for my campaign setting that I'm currently running, based in ancient Greece, called Odyssey of the Dragon Lord. Great module. Look it up if you're interested in that kind of stuff. Really good. It's not mine to plug, dude. It's a great setting, bro. Regardless, I can't help but look at D&D angels and see bad guys. Like, I just can't help it. Like,
No.
it's so easy to make their justifications wrong, right? So in this world setting I have gods and I have titans. And then they both technically have children that would be considered demigods. But I would imagine the gods having demigod children and the titans having angel children, right? Like the Diva, Planetar, and Solar being their direct descendants of the evil gods, right? And their messages or instructions may be just in nature, right? Like we've been here we were sent here because life is on the brink of existence because you don't know how to share this land, so we're here to eradicate you, kind of thing, right? Good like great concept you're trying to accomplish. You're trying to keep peace in the land, but you're doing so by exterminating something. That's just how I imagine all of these angels.
I mean, that's how I feel too. Like they're like I said, Dr. Manhattan. Like the Dr. Manhattan, like in The Watchmen, has the idea how to save like humanity, and he eventually goes along with the plan of Ozymandias because he can see all the futures and sees all the information and stuff. And it decides that maybe dropping a squid, or if you're doing the movie, blowing up New York, will like kill a lot of people, but it will like bring the nations to peace. Like that's how I think angels think. They don't think morally.
It's good for the sake of good, not good in the mortal sense.
Right, they're immortal, right? Like a human life or an average sentient life is
even an elf's life.
Yeah, even an
elf's life is 10 blinks.
Exactly. Like
they're a little more impactful, but minuscule at best, right?
They are very much like the aboleth in that way. We talked about how the aboleth, like when you play, you might not even understand their motives, or the aboleth might be speaking about something that just doesn't make sense to the party. I think the angels are the same way. The angels are like, you don't know, years down the line, because of this action, like this will happen, so we have to kill this person. And it's like, but the dude is a baker. Right. So what I wrote down is Asmar. Let's talk Asmar. So Asmar I didn't do that much research into. I should have. They're very close to angels, but I feel like that's another episode. So they're half celestials, but something with every Asmar is they all have guardian angels. It is something in their player backstory that it is advised to do. So you could even have an Asmar kind of be a conduit for an angel. Like, it could either be an NPC or a player in your party. If you have an Asmar, you could have. It's one way of bringing the angels into a social encounter is not have the people your party actually talk to the angels, but have like a conduit to them, which add more like black and white.
Like through an artifact or something,
or even that, and it could add more gray morality. Like if you like, let's say you have an Asmar like NPC, and it could be coming to the party. It could be like, we need to do this. This guardian angel is telling me, but then you could have like the filter of what the angels want, because like we've been talking about, the angels are very calculated. They want what you want, but the Asmar is going to have more morality to it. So it could be like the angels want to accomplish this. It's telling me to do this, but I feel wrong about that. So it kind of adds more complexity.
Asmars are what angels should be. Change my mind.
I mean, Asmars are dope. So yeah. I mean, you need to export some morality. I'm like, that's kind of like why tieflings are awesome too. It's like demons and devils are crazy evil. Well, I mean, some of them are lawful, but like tieflings, you can still be a little like chaotic, a little bit evil, but you have like normal morality.
Mhm.
Really change.
Yeah, more room to argue and deliberate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 50 Shades of Grey. It's not so black and white.
Exactly.
I
Hot.
Your party be calling out to an angel. I mean, if your party is calling out to gods, you can have an angel be like in between, like
Yeah, like if someone casts Commune or Augury, it could be
exactly.
a Solar or a Planetary answering that.
Yeah, instead of the actual gods, because sometimes the gods are busy to
They
deal
don't
with.
give a shit. Come on.
Yeah.
So,
You are
yeah,
so
they-
beneath them.
You have their secretary.
T-
What else is gonna? Oh, I have another note, but I think I want to save that for putting your own spin on the creature. So anything else last with social? You got anyone wants to say?
Nope.
Last thoughts. All right.
Not sure.
So let's move on to the next part, exploration. What kind of landscapes might the monsters be found? I mean, obviously Mount Celestia, the upper plains, would definitely be a place that you would find them. So again, leaving the plains, going to the outer plains is definitely a place they take.
agree.
So here's where I expect to find an angel.
Yeah.
The multiverse.
Yeah.
I just imagine them everywhere. You know, Divas delivering messages, Planetars delivering justice, Solars just doing what they do. I don't think that they're going to be sitting around being, lazy, so to speak.
That is fair. I would argue there's probably one place that you would probably find angels more than anywhere else, just out in the open, and that would actually be the lower plains.
Yeah.
Like they would be there kicking demons people's asses. Like you won't see one on the material plane, but you like go down to like the third level of hell, and there's probably like, it's like an angel who's like gone Rambo there, just like destroying stuff. And I mean, if you ever go to Mount Celestia or stuff, like I picture it like kind of like Hercules animated show. There's just like angels floating around, just chilling, but probably doing important stuff, not just chilling.
So would these Rambo angels like be hiding out in the caves, or would they just be like going to town until they die? Like, what is?
Well, I feel like they would be like on the verge of being a fallen angel at that point, so they might just be
Okay.
like standing in the middle of like I can't remember one of those. There's a city in else I can't remember the name
The
of.
Bronze City, whatever it's called.
City of Bronze or something. Yeah, it's just probably
City
like
Brass.
City of Brass is yes, the City of Brass. It's probably they're just like kicking ass, just killing demons, devils.
Okay.
But yeah, and it's weird to talk about these guys in like battle map when I'm like for exploration because it's I don't know. It's a very rare fight. Like Abelis, like are
Yeah.
kind of like they can be seen as like villains for arcs and stuff. So like you'll do an Abelis fight. Angel fights are like monsters in the monster manual that seem like more there to be set pieces or backgrounds or NPCs. They
Yeah.
don't seem there to be confrontational.
Yeah, I mean, with that +10 to charisma,
Yeah, I mean, why fight? Just talk your way
why
out of it.
fight?
They'd have to have a reason to scrap.
Right.
Like you'd really have to poke the bear, probably in like most situations.
For sure. So I think with exploration, yeah, what Anderson said, you pretty much can find them anywhere. They're probably in the towns. Most of them can go invisible at will, so you can really run into them anywhere. They're probably doing the gods favors everywhere. I mean, obviously they're going to be a little more prominent if you go to the upper or lower realms, just because that's where beings of good and evil are usually found. Anyone else have anything to say about exploration?
No.
All right, let's jump into combat. So let's say that 1% chance that your party is fighting the angels. First of all, why? And second of all, what are you expecting of this fight?
I did something really wrong, and they're going fast and hard. They're gonna be flying a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shayne was in your party. That's
I was
why,
there.
Why.
I hit someone off, and now there's 3 angels hovering above us of varying varieties. One of them just happens to have a longbow peppering us from the skies, as the two other ones are just like dive bombing and swooping across, doing all kinds of crazy things. And I imagine
made in
that's
the wrong city.
all happened after the diva shapeshifted and swooned us into a dark alley.
Yeah. I like the concept, Shane, but I think I would run it a little bit differently, right? With the all knowingness of angels, I personally feel like they would be consistently working alone unless they were like fighting in the blood war, right? So if a party of mine were ever to run into one of them, I would only ever have it be one at a time, and I would always make sure it is an incredibly deadly one for the group, right? So like level 1 through 6, it would be a diva. 6 through 12, it would be a planetar. 12 and up, it would be a solar. When you got to the point where it's like the party can fight a solar easy peasy, shit, make something up. Some newer, higher level angel above a solar, close to a god. I just feel like these are the kind of creatures that are more impactful as a solo standing unit, with the idea that they wouldn't try to be combative unless they were sent there to do so.
Like Zach said earlier, I think this thing has a really versatile. These things have a very versatile stat block, and you can kind of slap them on anything your brain can come up with. You can slap this stat block on them and have fun with it.
Yeah, like you said, I think Anderson, you said they could be paladins. So you can take these stat blocks and really make them not angels, which would also help with like the lawful good. Like I said, I used a solar and I reflavored it as looks like manifestation of Sybaris. I mean, it can fly. So Sybaris is a dragon. So it can fly. I had the sling longbow just be like a beam of light shooting out of its mouth. The flying sword, I think I had like a crystal or something. I can't remember what I did for that.
So something that I think was a wonderful addition to 5th edition that just came out maybe about a month and a half ago from when this was recorded was the book Mythic Odyssey of Theros. They added a new mechanic into the game called Mythic Monsters. And I think that is a wonderful addition to help with the idea of a singular boss fight that you want to have, but not make it feel like a slugfest. And I feel like that is a wonderful thing you can add to an angel. So without spoiling anything, a mythic monster has a second phase to the fights. And when you activate this second phase, they heal back up, they get new things, and a couple new traits. So, like, if you were to have a group of, like, 5 level 16 players and they fight a Solar, and let's say that, they kind of do wipe the floor with it, and they defeat it, right? On its final blow, it drops to, like, its knee and puts a fist on the ground, and it pulls its sword into his hand, clutches it, and shatters it. And all of the shards of this sword turn into this radiant light and wrap all the way up its arms, healing it, giving it a second pair of glowing wings made of like metallic sheen, and it's back up to full health and has a couple new effects and doesn't have the flying sword anymore, kind of thing. So I feel like that's a wonderful addition to help add to the threat of the solo individuals of an angel, which is what I really feel like that's
for sure.
That's how I would like them to be perceived.
So I'll restart that entire sentence. If you wanted to make this fight have minions, which because fights against one creature can very much become very boring very fast because it's just pretty much a slugfest. If you wanted to add minions to make the battlefield a little bit more versatile, is that angels and divas and solars are all created from gods. So there's definitely people who worship these gods who probably worship the angels. So, or even if they're fallen angels, they probably have cultists. So you can put in a human element on this too. Is that you're not only fighting the celestial being, but you're also fighting its followers, which is just something to think about.
The whole goddamn church.
Exactly. Anyone else have anything to say about the fights, how they would fight? Because I think we've covered it pretty well over the episode, kind of how they would do and stuff. But does anyone have anything else to say?
No, other than my mythic thing, no.
Awesome. So, last part of the episode before we wrap up is putting your own spin on the creature. I will start us off by just saying, as we started with, and throughout the history of the angels, they have taken inspiration from different religions. Like I said, the first one was from the Zoroastrianism. We also have pretty much every type of religion has its own form of angels or their own form of spirits. So I know in a lot of Dungeons and Dragons books and a lot of artwork, because it was created in the West and created in Wisconsin, all the images are pretty Judo-Christian type angels. But if you really want to spice them up, you can look to other areas. I mean, be respectful of other people's religions when you're doing this. Don't just take it and make it like atrocious. Like, do some research if you're gonna do it, but like, you can pull like maybe some ideas of angels from Hinduism, kind of make them more animal-like if you want, or just instead of, if you don't want to play them as just the feathery boys. That's one way you can really make the angels different, is looking at different religions, I think. I mean, even I want to say in the first, I will start with this out saying I am not up to my Bible knowledge, but I am like very sure that like the first thoughts and images and the first like scripture with angels on it talked about this being that. Oh, I actually have it right here. I did my notes correctly, guys. The first like appearance of an angel is called a Sephiim. It had 6 wings, 2 faces, like 4 feet, and like a bunch of eyes all over its body.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So like
Terrifying things.
exactly. So angels don't have to look like the traditional angels we all think of. Not the ones that like sit on the top of your Christmas tree. You can really look to. You can even like do something like Norse, like you said, Thor,
I
Solar.
was literally just gonna say that. I love the idea of just kind of reskinning the stat block as something really meaty in your story.
Exactly. So I would say don't be afraid to do that. But like also be respectful. Don't just be like, oh, that looks cool, and like don't like do a little bit of research, because
Mhm.
like it's kind of shitty if you take something from someone's like culture or religion and just like
Sure.
it without doing research. So don't do that. But I think also taking inspiration, because I think it's really cool.
Sure. On that note, it doesn't even have to be like that specific. Like, if you just happen to be in a specific type of landscape, you know, you could just change them more to that setting. If you're in a mountainous, snow-covered region with big, tall trees, then maybe Norse is a little bit more appropriate. You don't need to have Thor. You could just have a very Norse-inspired deity-type beastie that does crazy stuff, you know? Not crazy stuff, but
No, I feel like I've already, throughout the entirety of the episode, I've already said that. You know, angels being bad guys can make them the evil players of your campaign. I see them being, you know, children of evil gods, so to speak, as opposed to legionnaires. And mythic encounters with angels, and keep them as a solo encounter just for that fear of God.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, with that being said, unless Tevis, Shane, you guys have anything left to say?
No, I think we said everything pretty much.
All right. So, with that being said, thank you guys all again for listening, watching. Everyone's been super great. Next week, thanks. Next week we will be moving on from the celestial and the Lovecraftian, and we will be moving to flying carpets and living armor and sword.
Animated objects.
Yeah, animated objects. So, which are always fun. I honestly, I like animated objects a lot. I like throwing living swords, as you guys can tell. I like living swords. I think they're really fun. But yeah, next week we'll be doing animated objects. So we'll be covering your animated armor, your flying sword, and everyone's favorite rug of smothering.
Oh my god.
Right.
I can't believe it. I'm losing to a rug.
Exactly. Anyway, thank you guys again. You can find us on social media at Survival Check on Twitter, Survival Check Show on Instagram, and the DM Survival Guide on YouTube. We are going to be uploading things on Sunday now. It just makes more sense for everyone's schedule. But yeah, thank you guys again. This helped.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thanks for tuning in. You can watch Shane live at twitch.tv/Shane.
Yeah, that's
Bye,
true.
everyone. Be excellent to each other, and we will be seeing you next week.
All right.
Bye.
Bonus content. Zerial is a large fiend, lawful evil.